Mitchell, do I get the Poco F2? Do I get the Poco F3? Do I get the Poco X3 Pro? What device do I get? I don't know what to get. Please help me. Don't worry, guys. I know Xiaomi's marketing is pretty infuriating sometimes, pretty hard to follow. That's why today I'm going to answer one of the more commonly asked questions that get sent to me. Where all of these devices kind of fit in with each other, what's a good value, what's a bad value. If you guys are new to my channel, I like to make videos about finding good value in tech, getting the most value out of tech, and that's what we're diving into today. This has been a question that's been asked to me on Twitter, on Discord, and I will leave links to where you guys can connect with me on all those platforms in the description down below. But Xiaomi has recently decided to use and distribute their phones in a way that's kind of like Legos, where they're gonna take this old SoC with this new screen, with this old chassis and an old camera sensor, they're gonna change it, or they're gonna put it together, call it something new, and then sell it as a brand new device. And this is kind of confusing for a lot of people. And for them, their phone is a big tech purchase. So if you have a Redmi K20 Pro, it's a great device. I had it for a while, I really liked it. And the ROM and the aftermarket modding scene for that is huge. That device has a Snapdragon 855, and that 855 is the same processor that ships in the Poco X3 Pro. Snapdragon, I think, overclocked it a little bit, and now they're calling it the Snapdragon 860. But the 860 has no relation with the Snapdragon 865. I'll get to that in a second. The Poco X3 Pro has a worse camera than the Poco X3. It's got the Sony IMX582. The IMX582 is the old camera sensor from the Redmi K20. So if you want a Poco X3 Pro, maybe you don't care about the high refresh rate display, but you want AMOLED, and you want a better built device in your hand, then at least here in Vietnam, you can get a used Redmi K20 Pro for right around the $200 mark, and a battery replacement here is between 20 and 25 bucks. So for a similar price of a brand new Poco X3, I could get a Redmi K20 Pro from a shop with a warranty from that shop. Drinking cha da. Cha is just the Vietnamese word for tea. Da is the word for ice. Cha da, iced tea. And so I could go ahead and get a Redmi K20 Pro, and with the way the aftermarket modding scene is with ROMs and stuff like that, that device is going to get support for a long time, just the same way the Poco F1 is. The next device I want to talk about is the Poco F3, because the Poco F3 is the Poco F2. I could just end the video here on that.
Got it!
I'm kidding. The Poco F3 is the Poco F2 though. The Poco F3 uses the Snapdragon 870. The 870 is an overclocked version of the Snapdragon 865, which is the reason why it gets anywhere between 15 to 17% better benchmark scores for all of the gamers. If you guys have gamer memes, send them to me on Twitter or put them in my Discord. We were having like a meme talk last night about how Xiaomi is turning into a meme company and they should just call themselves Xiaomeme. I love talking with you guys on Discord. During COVID, I can't go out and see friends. Well, I love Discord. And it's where I go to do voice chats with you guys too. The Poco F3 is a Poco F2 with a slightly overclocked version of the CPU. If you live in a hot climate, it doesn't matter. It just means that your CPU is going to get hotter before it thermal throttles. So if you're living in India, if you're living in Malaysia, if you're living in the Philippines, which are my three biggest audiences, then those devices are going to get kind of similar real world performance because they're going to get hot. And you're not going to get as many kills as Sharma's son when you play PUBG. I'm sorry if your phone is stuttering. If you don't care about a big battery, then the Poco F2 actually has a bigger battery than the Poco F3. And because it's a 60 Hz display, it's going to get better battery life than the Poco F3. That's just the way it is. It does have an in-display fingerprint scanner, which is something that you maybe like, maybe don't like. For me, a good in-display fingerprint scanner is fine. I prefer it mounted on the power button the way it is on the Redmi Note 10 Pro. I just find it more ergonomic. The second difference is that the Poco F2 has a better camera. It's got the IMX686 versus the IMX582. The IMX582 is the camera from the Redmi K20, not the K20 Pro. It does not support 4K 60, which doesn't matter because Xiaomi doesn't support 4K 60 with EIS the way Asus does. I wish Xiaomi would be Asus, but that's a different conversation. And the other cameras that the Poco F2 have are basically just as good. I mean, the 8 megapixel ultra wide on the F3 is the same 8 megapixel ultra wide that I have on the Redmi Note 10 Pro. It ain't that great, but the Poco F2 does have the 13 megapixel ultra wide that the Xiaomi Mi 10 has, and that is a noticeable improvement. And the Poco F2 is going to support 4K 30, but because it's an 8 megapixel on the Poco F3, it won't, I think. Don't hold me to that, that might be wrong. But essentially, the Poco F2 is not a downgrade from the Poco F3, it's just a different device. It's made with all plastic and metal, whereas the F3 is plastic and metal and glass. And so parts of it are made with metal, but it's not the same kind of plastic or glass and metal construction that we have on the F2. If you guys are wanting to get a great deal on any of these devices, you can probably find them used wherever you live. Go get a battery replacement. And here in Vietnam, if I buy a used phone from my cell phone shop and I have a problem with it, most of the shops here will offer you a warranty if you buy the used device from them. It's gonna be a little bit more expensive than buying it from a private party, but if you have issues with the phone, you can take it back to the shop, which is great. And I would actually really suggest that if you're looking at either of these two devices, being the Poco X3 Pro or the Poco F3, that you look to see if you can save some money, because for real world day-to-day performance, it's going to be a trade-off in a lot of cases with these devices. And in some cases, like battery, it's probably going to be better. That's it. Oh, forgot to mention, charging on the Poco F2, same charger that we have on the F3. It's just a little bit slower because it's got a bigger battery.